Welcome back to Lucid Living. And if this is your first time, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to have you aboard. My name is Andrew Larkin. I'm an actor, model, performer, storyteller, breathwork coach, and today I'm going to be your host, your guide for today's podcast episode. All right, my friends, we got a good one. We got a good one today. I'm losing my mind over this. I'm so excited to dive into this deep conversation because we lived together for a little bit, and I'm really excited to just the stories are just endless. This is the greatest storyteller of all time. But we're gonna dive into him and introduce him. But before we do, we're gonna do some nice grounding breath work, whether this is your morning, your afternoon, or your night. It's a way to calm the nervous system down, bring a little stillness for the rest of our day or into our night. Today I'm feeling a 4-2-6 breath work. So that's an inhale for 4, a hold for 2, and exhale for 6. As we exhale longer than our inhale, it channels the parasympathetic nervous system, which allows the body to calm down. It's that rest and digest that just gives us a little bit of good calmness and stillness for ourselves, for us, for the people around us. So let's do this. As we inhale, we're going to inhale through the nose. And as we inhale, make sure we're expanding the belly like you're filling up a water balloon nice and big. Hold for 2, and then exhale for 6 out the mouth. Bring that belly back to your center. We're going to do that 3 times. So take this moment, ground ourselves, and let's begin with an inhale through the nose in 3, 2, 1. Big inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale out the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale out the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale out the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alrighty, you can return to your natural breathing, wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingertips, take a sip of water if you feel called. And my friends, today we got ourselves an actor. He's a foodie, a pond hockey superstar. He's a skateboarder, a fisherman, a gym rat, a New Yorker, but a New Englander at heart, and he's a fellow heavy hitter. We got Aidan Thomas Dyson. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
What is up, dude? Thank you so much for having me. I've been dying to be a part of this, dude.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
of course, so glad to have you. So we start off every podcast about where we are presently right now. So let the audience know, where are you geographically in the world, and also how are you feeling in this particular season of life?
So, right now I'm in Manhattan, New York. Um, yeah, it's where I've been living lately. I've been here for a little over a year. Um, Working 2 restaurants, making it happen, auditioning as much as I can, and just getting after it, man. I feel super optimistic. I am in kind of in a state where I have a couple projects on the horizon that I'm really excited for. And I've just been working a bunch in the restaurants, clock in, clock out, another day, another dollar. But just kind of watching that horizon get closer and closer. So big air of anticipation as of late. And just kind of showing up for myself every day, making sure that I show up to work on time and I'm professional, and then I get in the gym and just making these days go by. And that kind of raises a little bit of a obstacle sometimes of presence for me, I think. Because I'm looking forward so much to the months I have coming up of being on set and shooting and working on different projects and diving into characters that in this present moment, it's very easy for me to lose sight of that presence. And um, that's just something I'm working on. But yeah, balancing that work and just yeah, positively looking forward.
That's beautiful, bro. First of all, like self-awareness, incredible. Yeah, like so many things to look forward to. Great things are coming, man. Great things are coming. Alrighty, now for this segment, I always ask, I'm always fascinated by, as I've like done work on myself and continue to connect with other people. So much of what makes us who we are, what makes us tick, came from our childhood. It came from how we were raised, our environments, our likes, our dislikes. So this is the most loaded question I'll ever ask anyone. But I want to give you an opportunity to kind of share your life story in your own words. So, what was life like for a young Aidan Thomas Dyson growing up, and then family life, environment,
Mm,
likes, dislikes, middle school, high school, however that journey looks in your eyes, however you want to share that story that led you to where you are today.
yeah.
Take it away.
Okay. So it all started in a little tiny city called Portland, Maine. I was born there and I lived the first a couple of years of my life in Portland. And then we moved out to a little house. Well, you know, um, the property actually, funny enough, was pretty big. We had like pigs and we had goats at one point and chickens and stuff, and we had a pond. It was amazing. But we moved out there, uh, and I lived there from like two to, I don't know, I think six. So we were there for like 4 years. And that was really cool because I have a lot of kind of murky memories of um, growing up in that state of like constantly outdoors, wading up to my waist in the pond, trying to catch frogs and living outdoors with those animals and running through the woods. And we had a couple like apple trees, so I kind of got the taste of like the difference between, store-bought stuff and stuff that is grown on my own property right out of the dirt in front of me. Um, so that was amazing. Yeah, learned to ride a bike in that driveway. Uh, yeah, that I have very fond memories of that time in my life. And then after that, timeline wise, uh, when my parents split up, I moved with my mom to a little town. Like, I mean, the houses really were 6 minutes apart. House I moved out of and then the house I moved into, it was the next town over, um, called Freeport. And that is where I spent ages 8 to you know 19 was when I moved to New York. So yeah, the majority of my formative years were in that town of Freeport. um and yeah, it was a really interesting time for me, because I feel like a lot of people, I've met people whose parents they split when they're, like 16 or even older. And it can be really jarring and tough after you've built such a idea for yourself of what family is, for the parents then to split. But for me, it happened when I was like 4. So I kind of think I got lucky in terms of that. All my siblings were older. So my eldest sister was 14 when it happened. And yeah, I mean, that was my normal very quickly, having a mom and dad who weren't together. And yeah, I kind of just grew up, and my dad lived in Portland. So I was able to kind of enjoy Freeport and then Portland at the same time, which was really nice because a lot, if you talk to people in Maine, they're like, "Oh my God, I love Portland. Portland's the best. I don't go there as much as I want to, blah blah blah." But I was there, every weekend and alternating Thursday. So it was great. But yeah, until 19, I lived in Freeport and kind of shared time between my mom and dad's house. Became more time primarily at my mom's when I hit like high school or something, and I started driving and built up that like social life and planted roots a little for myself. Spent a lot more time in Freeport. But I have been acting I mean, since I can remember. I remember doing a play in like kindergarten, and I was one of the three little pigs. And I like got off it, I was gonna say I got off stage, but it was just one corner of the classroom. And I walked off and I was like, you know what? This feels right. This feels right. So I doubled down and I committed to it. And my mom, of course, the type of person she is, she was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So She started like taking me to auditions around in Maine, and I got into some of that like professional Maine theater. And I was doing the bet. I mean, instead of summer camps, I would go and I would do seasons at Maine State Music Theater. Um, and that environment was the first environment that I really felt I was a part of something bigger than me. And it just made such a huge difference for me. Growing up, finding that belonging, finding that place, and that thing that your first sense of real fulfillment. Um, it was my first love, I think, really was performing and being a part of a performance, and seeing how it moves people and how it moves me and how it changes over time, how it can make you so close to people that you would otherwise not look twice at. And once I hit high school, I had this weird thing that I think a lot of people have at that age, at like 15, 16, where they're like, the things that they love to do when no one's watching or judging, kind of get put on the back burner. And what becomes more important is fitting in with whatever, crowd they deem gives them that kind of social worth. Uh, and I definitely fell into that. So I kind of left acting behind for a little bit, as a whole, and I still have my love for it, but I also found new love in sports and skateboarding, and I played, yeah, like we said in the intro, played a lot of pond hockey. That's big in Maine, Canada's neighbor, so it's kind of natural. Every winter when it freezes over, everyone gets out to the pond and you play pretty much all day. It was, yeah, I absolutely loved that. Played a lot of soccer and basketball and all of that. And that really took up most of my time. So I did find a lot of value and fulfillment in that. But then when I got closer to the end of high school and it became time to think about what do I want to do, because I'm not, as much as I love it, I'm not going to the NHL. Um, so I struggled for a long time with what I really wanted to do. And there were a few options in my head. I seriously, seriously considered law enforcement for a while. Um, I'm not really sure why I landed on that, but that was one of them. And I ended up landing on um, to be a sports medicine physician. So I graduated high school. I got into the state school, UMaine Orono, go Black Bears. And I went there for a total of 2 weeks. And what then happened to me, I like to call the universe interfering, um, in a way that at the time I thought was horrific, but in retrospect, it was um, the brakes that I needed on a train going going downtown when I needed to go uptown. So I got really sick physically and mentally, when I was up there. And I couldn't show up for myself, and I felt like things were really, really, really wrong. It was hard to put a finger on why. I was having troubles in pretty much every part of my life. Like the ground was really crumbling under my feet. I was like, what is going on? And it was a couple weeks straight of this. And a couple weeks doesn't feel like a long time, but when you're new on a campus,
Mhm.
uh, in college for the first time, everyone can relate to this. No matter what you're doing, it can feel like such an impossible hill to climb. Um, so I convinced my mom, that's what my mom said. She'd raised 3 kids before me, so she'd heard the same spiel 3 times about I can't do this, I made a mistake, blah blah blah, whatever. And that's what she told me. She was like, Aiden, I know you. I know, how strong and brave you are, and if you use some of that persistence and you really stick this out and just keep showing up for yourself, I know you're going to get through. And I tried, but eventually I just called her in tears and I was like, I gotta come home, you know, I gotta come home. And I think The kind of tough love mom in her, she kind of let it take the back seat for a little bit. And she said, okay, buddy. So she came up and brought me home. It was like a 2 hour drive, and I never went back. And I was talking to actually at the time, this was like 6 months later. I spent 6 months just kind of working in a restaurant and thinking about what am I gonna do next? Um, what do I really want to do? And because as cool as it would have been to be a sports medicine physician, it just didn't. I had kind of accepted at that point that that wasn't what was gonna keep getting me out of bed every day. And I was talking to like 6 months later, I was dating a girl at the time. She was a dancer. She was committed to Marymount Manhattan College for dance. And she was so excited. It was the next big chapter of her life. She was taking a huge step. And I was talking to her like, I don't know. I don't know how to find passion in the way that you found passion for dance. And I don't know how to build the courage to go for it like you are. And she knew me very well, and she knew that I used to do acting before she met me, and she'd heard me blab on about it for hours on end about how much I loved it and pause movies and talk about an actor or whatever else. I'm sure it drove her crazy, but at the core, she knew how much it meant to me. And she said, "Why don't you try acting?" And you know, of course I protested. I was like, there's no way I could make anything of that. That's not like a career thing. It's more of like I love doing it, but it can't be a career. And we went back and forth for a long time, and eventually she convinced me. She was like, just audition for some schools, for some acting schools. And if you get into one, you'll cross that bridge when you get there, but just audition. Um, and I auditioned for a few, and I got into one in New York. And yeah, I went. It was kind of like, all right, I'll see what this is like. I'll see if it's really for me, if it was just a little childhood, pastime, or if this is something I can see myself building into a career. And once I got to school and started learning under amazing, amazing, amazing teachers, Steve Perlmutter, who has studied under students of the greats, uh, he taught me the Meisner technique, and really introduced me to not what it is to be an actor, but what it is to act, how different that is, from the way you imagine it when you're a kid to putting it into practice, how unbelievably therapeutic acting can be, and fulfilling, and how challenging it is. And I fell head over heels in love with it all over again. And I graduated in May of 23, and I hit the ground running. Well, I took I went home for a little bit to Maine to kind of save up some money, because New York ain't cheap. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but New York ain't cheap. So, and I certainly didn't have the money to move into an apartment after I graduated. So I went home, saved up a bit, came back, started auditioning, and by the grace of God, booked heavy hitters, where I ended up meeting Andrew Larkin himself, who he was a, for everyone listening, he number one on the call sheet, but also really a true leader. And he was my first example of someone who, when they walk onto a set, everyone is like, oh, their presence is felt. Um, and seeing that in real life after school on a set for the first time, it was like, holy shit, like whew, this is real, man. Like these are awesome professional people, and I met so many amazing people on that set. One of which being Taryn Kelly, who introduced me to who is now my manager, Ricky Dale, who is amazing and has transformed the trajectory of my career and got me some really incredible opportunities. Just getting in the room with some of these companies is something I didn't think I'd be able to do, until late in my career. So heavy hitters really exploded what I thought was possible for me already in multiple ways. Um, And I'm at where I'm at right now is we're coming very close to shooting season two of Heavy Hitters, and the same production company, same director and writer. I'm doing a film for her in June, which I'm super pumped for. It's a rom-com. It's going to be so much fun. T. Kelly is also my co-star in that, along with Phil Blevins, who appears in Heavy Hitters as well. Um, and yeah, man, just auditioning a bunch, working in restaurants, paying the bills. I'm waking up so happy and grateful that I get to do this, and proud to call myself a New Yorker. Um, yeah, man, that's where I'm at. Just taking it one day at a time, and just feeling so happy and grateful, really, day to day. Yeah,
That was beautiful, man. That was so articulately spoken. I don't know how often we like go through our Rolodex of memories and like the
yeah.
the through line of our lives, but you did that pretty darn well. Pretty darn well. And thank you
Thank
for the
you,
shout out, dude. I mean, you're the greatest. I'm
dude.
curious. So you said you graduated in 23, right?
Mhm.
And then we didn't audition until like May of 24, right? So
Right.
were you back home for that full year?
I was back home for 9 months. So
Okay.
about 9 months. I got back to the city and started. I like to the start of my career, basically, I think, is when I started auditioning. Um, so that started in March of 24.
Oh, wow, dude.
I
So
moved in.
March, April, you auditioned for like 2, 3 weeks and got heavy hitters.
It was I mean it's a funny story. It's an insane story and a testament to the kind of right place, right time that happens with acting so much
Hmm.
that I so many people, including one person specifically, said this exactly to me. My niece's father, also named Andrew, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met, and so in tune with the way the universe works. He's an utter genius in the sciences and in just life. Uh, and he said, and this isn't his quote, but he really opened my mind up to the fact that luck, what we call luck, is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And so you can sit around kind of hoping to be in the right place at the right time, but to kind of give luck a little bit of a nudge in your direction. It's what I did for the first 3 weeks after I moved to the city in March. I'd wake up before a restaurant shift and I'd scroll through Actors Access and Backstage and all of that and start submitting and then get back after my shift. And if I had any hits, I would respond or, try and memorize for a self-tape or whatever. And I did that for a little bit. And then by all of a sudden, I got a response from Donna McKenna, who's casting Heavy Hitters. And I was reading for a really a role with a much less just much less screen time. I don't like to say smaller role because um, you know, I think I don't know. Tom Hanks maybe said there are no small roles, there are
Hmm.
only small
I believe it.
actors. I
Hmm.
think that was his. But I love that. And it was a role with a lot less screen time. And I ended up going to how the production did part of the audition process was a tryout. And I was there, you were there, we were, um, for, I mean, I don't know how long. I mean, 3, 4 hours was my slot. Uh, and it was just a tryout, like you would try out for a baseball team. And they were setting up for the tryout, and part of that setup was trying to find a way to structure how the actual tryout is going to work. So they did a very small, tiny version of the tryout
Hmm.
just to see what works, what doesn't, troubleshoot before the real thing when 100 or 200, I don't know how many kids actually ended up being invited to the tryouts, but they wanted to hammer out the details. So about a couple weeks prior, they held this small, there was like 14 players there. Tiny, tiny tryout. Ethan Jones was there. And I somehow, I don't, they picked very randomly. I was one of the 14 little people who auditioned and end up getting picked for this kind of test run of the tryout. And when I was there, we had this whole thing because I said that I could play the catcher position, which I can't. I absolutely cannot. But for some reason, I said I could, and I think that's just the actor in me being like, yeah, I can do it if I need to, you know. Um, and she was calling out names like, okay, catchers, blah blah blah, blah, Aidan Thomas, and she looked up at me and she was like, "Huh, can you catch?" And I was like, "I can try." She was like, "Okay, suit up." And so I did, and I put on a clinic of the worst catching you have probably ever seen. I mean, it was laughable. Like balls were going through my feet, above my head. I was catching balls straight in the glove and dropping them, and it was just a disaster. And after I was like, I blew it. I blew it. I'm not going to be a part of this show. Um, and after when we were doing a little like checkout thing, it was like, come see me after, and I'll check you out and say that yes, you were here and you can give it to your management or whatever it was. I don't know. But I walked up and I was like, hey, like I do want you to know that I can play baseball. It's just like it's been a while and I'm not used to catching the last time I did it. I was so young. And she was like, so there's this character that I've been thinking about writing into the show, but I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't think I was gonna do it. But he's put in a situation where he has to catch. And for the good of the team, he steps up and he does it. And he's an absolute hot mess, but he does it uh, because he wants to put the team before himself. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's me. And she was like, oh, I want you to read for him. So a few weeks later, I did an audition and then I did a couple chemistry reads. And then I was cast as this character who wasn't originally going to be in the show. Um, and that's how I ended up spending so much time with you, and with Taryn and Mac and everyone, just because of this one instant where she saw something that made her think of a character. Um, and that was the biggest right place, right. I mean, I was just plucked out of, I think she says 60,000 people auditioned, sent in tapes, uh, or maybe asked to send in tapes. And then they narrowed the pool down, and then like 14 kids got invited to this tiny little thing. And yeah, just something happened. And it kind of opened up a huge door for me to meet you and Taryn and Mac and River and Ethan and everyone, and also my manager. And uh, yeah, so that was a big right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah, dude, God's plan, brother. God's plan. I'm asking it later on in the episode, but
Yeah.
I always call them kind of awakenings, and you had kind of alluded to it earlier about it's always kind of the events that in the moment,
Mm.
it's like, why is this happening to me?
Hmm.
And then it's usually painful. It's usually like a lot of like victimization and stuff, and then you
Yeah.
remove yourself from it, and it just was there because it had to radically disrupt you to set you on a different path. And then
Yeah.
when you remove yourself from it, you're like, absolutely, that was why. And that was like God pulling strings or whatever someone believes in the universe, something, some guiding force.
Yeah.
And it's like incredibly spiritual. And I find I've listened to thousands of hours of podcasts and interviews of actors, and
Mm.
there is such a common theme of moments like this happening. And it's the most beautiful thing about like this
Yeah.
surface life, dude. And there's gonna be plenty more to come, plenty more to come.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have a ton of questions about acting, but first I want to highlight something because it was recently Mother's Day And
Mm,
I remember just chatting to you outside of this and hearing you talk about your mom. And I just want to like take a moment to kind of celebrate her and to take a moment to kind of be like, what is your relationship with your mother and like what does she mean to you?
dude, I'm so happy you asked that. Um, my mother means she's the most important person in my life. And I've known, I mean, all of my friends also call her mom. She, my mom's story is incredible. And I draw so much inspiration from her story. Um, she is not only uh, sh uh, lifelong labor and delivery nurse, but she's also a reverend in the Presbyterian Church, and she's a poet. Um, she leads this life of utter acceptance, and pure love. And she's always instilled that in me from when I was very young. I mean, just the turn the other cheeks, I would hear, and love your neighbors, I would hear, and all of those things that she worked so hard to ingrain in us when we were growing up are just truly who she is. It's not just her trying to be a good parent or raise peaceful kids. Um, she is the strongest person that I've ever known. She raising four kids financially alone, battling breast cancer. She, and on food stamps all at the same time. And in that situation, she just did absolutely whatever was necessary to make sure that we got through a day. And she did it over and over and over again until we were on the other side. And with the help of people in my community, like some of my best friends I grew up with, kind of doing hand-me-down clothes, and the amazing community center at Freeport, with their food bank, and we had access to a fair amount of help, which was paramount to getting through that time. But she took the reins, and she went through a double mastectomy, and even through that and the recovery of that, she was a mother to four and the leader of that household. Um, and every time I've come to her with any sort of question about who I am, or where I come from or where I'm going, she seems to have this omnipotent sense of what's right. Um, and I genuinely owe every single thing I enjoy day to day to what she's done and the sacrifices she's made. And it wasn't always, I didn't always see it this way. It's really easy for a young kid, especially a kid of divorce, to look at two parents and the one parent who, shows up on the weekend and takes you out to McDonald's. And it's easy to see that and be like, oh, you're doing it right. And then the parent who reminds you that you have to brush your teeth, and the parent that turns the video games off when it's time to go to bed. It's very easy to say, you know, why you doing this? Why you got to ruin my fun? And I kind of had that mindset a lot. And I've talked to my mom about this as I've grown up. And now that I'm an adult on my own, we've had some really amazing and fulfilling and full circle conversations that I'm so happy that I'm able to have with her, about the fact that my perspective shifted, and I realized that she not only was doing the right thing, but she had the courage to do the right thing and never blow it up in my face, never be like, I'm doing this because, or, you know, I have to do all of this because it was always just this is the way it is, and it's not easy, but this is the way I'm raising you. And I know sometimes it feels like you're on a 2 inch leash, but and she did all of that. And yeah, I've had a couple moments where I call her just kind of in tears because I've had a day thinking of everything that she did for all of us, and where I would be if she hadn't been there. And it's funny, last time I called her, I was like, Mom, I just wanted to let you know how much it means to me, how much you've done over the years, and I'm so sorry that I wasn't always appreciative of it and some things that I've said to you. And all she said was, I feel so lucky to have had that time with you and to be able to have been able to raise you. Um, which is just like, you know, after everything, I don't know. What a thing to say. She's my biggest inspiration, and I think if more people lived like she does, the world would be a very, very beautiful place. So, yeah, thank you for asking that. I'd love the opportunity to talk about her, man.
Dude, shout out moms. We love them. We wouldn't be here
Seriously.
without them. My mom is my number one listener on these podcasts, and she's in tears right now after that was
Oh,
beautiful.
man.
She loves that. All right.
Hey, Mama. We
Now,
love.
I want to go back to your auditioning to get into acting school.
Yeah.
What were the feelings going into that? Because that's a pretty big step. Are you taking the kind of laissez-faire attitude of like, I don't really care, so I'm just gonna screw it, I'm just gonna do it. And like that kind of attitude gives you like an ease to be able to perform? Were you like crazy nervous? Or like what did it feel like as you were auditioning for those schools?
There were definitely nerves. Definitely, definitely nerves. Um, but also I wasn't letting myself get my hopes up. I was kind of in this state of like, we'll see what happens, but also, I don't know if this is even really for me, but there was definitely an air of let's see if I still got it. Because I grew up doing it and I loved it so much and it was so fulfilling. And I just didn't know if that would translate into the real world. Um, and I remember I did one of Zuko's monologues from The Last Airbender when he confronts Ozai on the Day of Black Sun. And I did the monologue in the Zoom call, and they were like, "Oh, thank you." Had a couple follow-up questions. That was it. Uh, and the whole time after, I was really thinking, like, dude, I don't think that was that good. Uh, I don't think they love that. I think that was pretty out there, and they're looking for something more, I don't know, real. But they liked it, and they wanted, yeah, they offered me a spot in the class, and I got a really nice grant, which made it possible for me to go in the first place. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of like, dude, I don't know, I know I love this, and I know that there is some connection there, but I just don't know real world if it would even be possible. So I was kind of keeping it at an arm's length to
Mhm.
protect myself, I think, from the disappointment of not getting in anywhere. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Did you have a plan B?
no, um, no. I think my real no plan B moment was moving to New York in March a little over a year ago. Because when I was trying to get into school, it was kind of like, you know what, if I don't get in anywhere, I just reroute. I find something
Mhm.
else, whatever. But I'd been through school in March of last year. I'd been through school, I'd learned all the technique and I'd done the classes. I'd networked. Um, it was kind of a moment of like, okay, I'll go home for 9 months and I'll save up. But then when I got back to the city, I had a big moment of like, really, this is it now. Um, when I get to the city now, I'm doing this full force, and I still don't have a plan B. Um, and I don't know. It was like I keep thinking this thing over and over. That's when I'm on my deathbed and I look back on my life, am I gonna have regrets about things? And I don't want to live in fear because that's not what I'm going for. Um, Fear of that regret. I think it's more of a drive to see what I can do. And yeah, moving to the city in March was a huge moment of like, this is it. Once I move in, once I sign this lease and I get into this apartment, I have no plan B. This is it. This is it. Like forever. Um, and after I moved in, it was kind of just like, all right, I'm here. Let's do it.
Mhm.
So,
Dude, you're
yeah.
absolutely being guided. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were studying in class, I know different like kind of conservatories and schools do different things. Was it exclusively around theater and acting? Did you have a taste of film at all?
So, my degree is an associate's degree in acting for film and TV.
Oh, nice.
I'd grown up in the theaters in Maine, so I felt like I had a fair amount of theater experience. And I wanted to get the camera training so that I could, I think, be more well-rounded and open up more opportunities for myself. But also, I just love film so much. It's so interesting to me. And there's something incomparable about theater and the energy in theater and the process of preparing for live shows and feeding off of the audience. And it's a whole world and an entire love within itself. But film is so different, and I wanted to immerse myself in that world. So I went to school for film specifically. Um, and the classes there were no like gen eds or anything like that. It was really the closest thing we had to a gen ed was dance because that wasn't, it wasn't anyone's major who was in the film thing.
Mhm.
Um, but we had really, really, really cool classes. We had like movement for actors, so we learned all of the old techniques that originated in Japan about spatial relationships and awareness and kind of the teachings, how that was brought to the Western world and how it's incorporated into modern film and TV and theater. Um, the awareness of the actor's body and the story that the body can tell. And we had classes like scene study, where it's your more traditional acting class. You study a script and you are assigned a scene out of that script and a scene partner, and you put it up in front of the class and whatever, use the techniques. But then we also had like history of film genre, and we got to dive into the oldies and what made them popular and the styles over the years, how film has evolved, how entertainment as a whole has evolved, um, the evolution of language and wartime film, like how telling it is of the world at the time. Any film that's made during wartime is technically a wartime film, even if it's a love story that has nothing to do with war. Um, just really, really, I took like voice class. We did Shakespeare. I took commercial voiceover, so I was like the new Toyota, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, it was so wide. There was a lot of variance in what I was learning. But that was the structure. It was 2 years of that, and we did a lot of stuff on our own. We created a lot, and wrote a lot, so it felt very fulfilling. Uh, and I made some great friends. I live with a kid I graduated with
Mhm.
to this day, and we're helping each other with auditions every week. So yeah,
Yeah, brother. That's what it's all about. I love that. I love that. All right. I want to talk about some of the projects that you've worked on. I talked to a lot of the other guys about Heavy Hitters. I was like, we're gonna like talk about that once the show comes out because I don't want to
yeah,
spoil it. I
sure,
think
yeah,
the audience like we put them under a spell basically by creating that world and letting them watch it. Once we
sure,
start talking behind the scenes, it can like remove
sure,
that. So we
sure.
can save that for another day.
Mhm.
But some of these smaller projects, like we got Check Please, you got Flynn, The Birds Sing in You.
Wow.
Those three you can pick and choose, but what did you take away from doing like really on a film set for the first time? What was that experience like?
That's amazing, man. I feel like I'm on Hot Ones. You did your
Doing
research.
my homework, man.
That's amazing. Yes. So those were the first few things I got into before heavy hitters. Those were um small local short films and passion projects. Uh and once I graduated from college, I'm trying to think, I think The Birds Sing in You was my first, I think was my first time on a set outside of college. And it was a Hofstra University thesis film set. And it was run so incredibly. Like everyone was so, and they're all students, so professional. And everything worked like clockwork, and they had everyone doing their jobs. It was really eye-opening, uh, to see the vitality of a set and how important every role was. Because I showed up feeling like hot shit. I was like, oh, I'm the lead, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And while they're very nice and accommodating and they take care of you as an actor, it's super, super cool to see, how important it is that this one little piece of the cog of the machine is running properly. Like someone who's in charge of, you know, holding a cord that goes to a camera while it shoots is, if they're not there, everybody's there for a reason, and the finished product, what you see is the culmination of so many hours and so much effort of so many different people with vastly different jobs on one set. And it was really eye-opening to see the importance of all the different tiny jobs on the set that come together that make the entire set. So that was really cool. That was eye-opening after I graduated school. And just there's nothing like it, man. Like if you're listening to this and you're an actor and you haven't yet gotten the chance to show up on a set and have a day's work on a set, one, it's coming. Keep grinding. Two, it is so incredible and so fulfilling, and it reminds you why you started in the first place. Um, I remember I couldn't sleep the night before the first day and the night after the first day. Because the night before I was like, oh my God, like this is my first day on set. What's gonna happen? And the night after I was just staring at the ceiling, like I am so beside myself at how lucky I am to get to call this a job. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome. I also want to just like hone in on this like really cool kind of thing where it's you like start off acting. Like it's almost like your heart, your soul guided you to that moment in kindergarten,
Mm,
Three Little Pigs, and then you're doing it, and then high school, dude. High school is always kind of a weird time, but you pick
mm,
up different hobbies, different skills, skateboarding, fishing, um, hockey, and all of these like it comes back full circle in some moments, whereas like a lot of these skills that we just pick up as hobbies that kind of maybe don't mean much in the moment. When you're on film, all of those skills like lend itself to you never know what's gonna happen. Like having an athletic background, being able to do heavy hitters and play baseball. And dude, I just had to ask, dude, did you see the casting for Off Campus? Because I just couldn't help but think about you because I remember Joey talking about doing like an ice hockey movie and like, dude, I play ice hockey. And I was like, I just finished reading the first book and the main cast is announced, but I'm like, I could totally see you in the show, dude. I'm like,
So is that you're gonna have to remind me. Is that Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, I auditioned for that, I think. Um, was that wasn't connected to Joey, right? That was a
no, 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 no. This is like an Amazon. It's based off of like a best-selling book.
Oh, 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 yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, okay, okay. Yes. So yes, I did, and I auditioned for it. And when I saw that, and it's funny, manager will text me and be like, "Hey, you skateboard, right?" And I'll be like, "Yes." And she'll be like, "Great." And then I'll have an audition, and part of it is like sending the production clips of me skateboarding.
Mhm.
Um, and the hockey thing as well. That's so cool. And yeah, those little hobbies that I kind of picked up in high school. It's cool to see me kind of, I'm starting to bump into opportunities where, oh, that's actually going to come in handy after all. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for a film about like, or a TV show about, like servers in a restaurant. And I know like there's the bear,
Mhm.
where that's behind the line. But um, I would love to create one day uh, a show about like wait staff in a restaurant because that's what I do all day. And
Mhm.
or like, I don't know, a movie about a fisherman, an angler, but like, there's already stuff like that. But um yeah, it's super cool seeing my little hobbies come to the surface as like tools to
Mhm.
get
But
closer
there's
to an
always
acting job or yeah.
it'll all come to fruition at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, 100%. I love that. Okay, so I want to talk about fitness for a little bit because this is like
Oh
such a
yeah.
funny thing on heavy hitters, and not talking too much about heavy hitters, but a lot of these guys were very fit,
Yeah.
and it was like an incredibly inspiring space to be around that
Yeah.
like strong masculine energy. And you, I remember like 'cause we were talking to Mac, and you were talking to just like you have a great articulation and understanding of body, like kind of like composition, and muscle building, like the growth, because there's so much misinformation in this kind of world. So,
Yeah.
um, quickly or in your own words, what was that fitness journey like for you? When was the moment where, because you were a pretty like lean guy, and now you're like a pretty big dude. So, like, what was that? What was that journey like, and like what was the process for someone? Because I mean, there's always that one kid out there who's just like trying to figure it out but doesn't understand it and like
Yeah.
listening to these guys, but that's not really working or they burn out. So like
Yeah.
what kind of has worked for you in the fitness world?
Um, I also love talking about this, so I'm going to try to find a way to make this brief. Uh, I started because one day I was sitting in gym class. I remember it was middle school. Looked over at there was this kid, Damon. I grew up next to him, same neighborhood, and I looked over and he was doing something. I don't know. He was doing something, and his like tricep was popping, and I was like, man, I don't look like that. Like I wanna look like that. That's sick. Um, so I took my ass to the gym and I started kind of from scratch with no idea of what I was doing. And my biggest ally was YouTube. I used a lot of YouTube to consume information, figure out about dieting, figure out about how workouts, how to do a certain workout and what muscles it affects, and the concept of just hypertrophy as a whole. Um, and over the years of being in and out of the gym, in and out, in and out, in and out, I kind of made myself a regimen and taught myself what works for me and what doesn't, and kind of built a little bit of a bullshit meter on the stuff I see online. Where it's like, if you see some guy saying something on TikTok about some exercise, yeah, great. But also like if you haven't spent the time with yourself and with your own body in the gym, learning how you work, learning what works for you, it's really hard for you to judge what is good information and what's not. So I think I built myself a bit of a foundation of like how I work, how my body reacts to certain things. And then through trial and error, and not too bad of error, thank God, because people be getting really hurt in the gym. Um, Through a little bit of trial and error, I kind of learned how my body works, how to make the muscles grow, and yeah, it was a long time of doing exercises wrong and looking like a bit of an idiot, but that is so necessary. Um, in anything, you have to kind of start from the ground up, and I definitely did that in the gym. Um, and it's become such a passion, I'd say, of mine. It's so important that I stay fit and stay healthy, and it's a part of my lifestyle. Um, yeah. Yeah, great question. Yeah.
What's a like a quick crash course guide for someone who's looking to put on size?
Okay. If you're like me, you grew up very skinny. People would always say things like, dude, just eat more. Why, are you not eating? Uh, and so first things first, start simple. You have to start simple. And the biggest thing actually, before I even start, is it doesn't matter how you eat. Nothing else matters as long as you are showing up. If you're doing 6 days a week, just show up 6 days a week. If one or two of the days you're a little tired and you can't really get through the extent of the full workout, just show up. Show up, do some reps, feel the muscles contracting, feel them relaxing, get in tune with your body. Just show up. Uh, the most important thing is sticking to your schedule. And I've done so many rounds of buying the big tub of protein powder and investing in the creatine and eating broccoli and chicken and rice 3 times 5 times a day, for 2 weeks and then burning out. It's like you don't need all that. All you need is to show up for a week and then another week and then another week. Just keep showing up. And as you do that more and it becomes more of a normal part of your life, naturally you'll be able to focus on the things like, am I consuming enough calories? Am I eating clean? Am I taking my recovery seriously? Just show up. But crash course quickly, what I do is a modified push pull leg. So I'll do my pushing muscles, my chest and triceps on day one. On day two, I'll do back and biceps. Day three, I'll do my first set, my first half of legs. So I do quads and shoulders on my first leg day, and then I repeat push, pull, and on my second leg day, I'll do calves, hammies, and shoulders again. Um, and then it's rest and repeat. Um, so that's my split. That's what works for me. Saves me a little time in the gym, but also allows me to focus on the muscles in the way they need to be. What I've been doing lately is I'm lucky because I work in restaurants pretty much 7 days a week nowadays. And I'm able to eat 2 free meals a day. That's huge, 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 huge for anyone on a budget or anyone trying to eat enough. It's so important that you're not only eating enough, but you're eating clean. I would rather you eat maintenance and eat clean than eat more and be shoving your face with junk. It's been so important to me lately that I'm reading the labels and I'm doing my research and I'm eating things that are going to really fuel my body. Um, so just make an effort. It's not like you need to break the bank or go get a timeshare at your local, farm. Um, That's for later. What you want to do to start out is at least one meal a day. Be like, okay, I'm going to be conscious about this. I'm going to eat my clean protein. I'm going to have some veggies. I'm going to have some fruit. I'm going to make sure I'm fueling my body with healthy carbs, sweet potato, whatever. At least a meal a day. Start with one meal a day of clean eating and show up at the gym. Just show up. Make an effort. You don't have to go and kill yourself for 4 hours. Just make an effort. Um, and you'll find that the next steps fall into place for you.
Dude, you're a freaking superstar. That was fire. That was fire. Snatch it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, now I want to talk about a little tiny thing that there's a spectrum of. I think everyone in this world navigates it in different ways, and we experience it in different ways, and it's hard to pinpoint, but it's mental health. And
Yeah,
I love having like my male friends on here talking about mental health because I
yeah,
think
dude.
in 2025 it's getting destigmatized and it's a
Yeah.
lot more easier and accessible to talk about and to try to understand. Science is really starting to catch up to all of the things that might influence mental health and the ways that we can kind of navigate through that work for us.
Hmm.
We're in interesting positions too because we're also in the entertainment industry, being in this crazy circus where you have to work at a restaurant 7 days a week to really support yourself to be able to do what you love. And then you show
Mm,
up and do what you love and you freaking love it, but it's also like a lot of waiting, a lot like 12 hours, 14-hour days, you know? So it's a lot of kind of structure and then like chaos. And then it's like, how do
yeah.
you navigate the nervous system throughout that time? And it's just like kind of a lot. Sometimes it stems from stuff we've been through when we were younger and having to go through and do the work. And you're very self-aware. So I'm just curious, what has your relationship been with mental health? And do you have practices to kind of help navigate through, the tougher days that help you back to equilibrium?
hmm Dude, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I think you're spot on with the fact that in this industry, it's really hard to find that stability that is so important to so many people's peace of mind and mental health. It's hard to feel grounded. It's hard to, feel your feet on the floor because a lot of times you're running from place to place to place to place to place. And like you said, you're waiting for hours at a time, or you're working super hard, or you're not on a set for 3 months at a time, or you're only on a set for 3 months. It's just so much unpredictability. I would say the biggest thing for me, and this is another thing my mom was so knowledgeable about and such an ally to me with, is building yourself a toolbox, where you first off you need to give your obstacles a face and a name. You need to get to know them. For me, it was anxiety. Anxiety was my major obstacle growing up and growing into a young man who navigates his own day to day. Anxiety was really crippling at times. And I found it hard to maintain relationships and hard to eat. I had a real problem actually with eating for a while. And now it's so important to me, and I'm such a foodie and I love food, but it's only because I've been through so much kind of struggle with that. And you know, I think it's so important to build yourself that toolbox, like I was talking about, in a sense of what am I struggling with? And then what are the things that I can do or I can ask of my loved ones to aid me in weathering the storm of this feeling. Um, and my mom would always say things like, you know, um, depression is the best liar you will ever meet because every time it comes around, it convinces you that this time it's going to stay forever. And things like that are so important to hear for someone who's struggling. For me, my toolbox, for example, I do really well when I'm able to have a moment of quiet where I can focus on my breath. If I can slow down my breath, I can feel my heart rate start to go down. I feel my body temperature, you know, start to stop rising. Because I mean, when you're in that state, it's like all hell breaks loose physically. Um, but I find some quiet. I connect with my breath. I control my breathing. I feel my feet on the floor. I have some good exercises like what are three things you see? What's something you smell? What are two things you hear? That kind of exercise that really gets you grounded and gets you back in your body when you feel like you're floating away on an anxiety attack. And also things like square breathing. That was always big for me before I met anyone who was informed about the power of breath like you. I had a therapist once tell me about square breathing, and I think therapy is such a huge, huge, huge um, tool for people that I don't think should be neglected. I think that no matter how happy that you feel you are, or how fulfilled you feel you are, or how little you think about your mental health, or how little you deal with it, I think everyone benefits from getting their feelings into words and kind of contextualizing their life in that way. Um, and yeah, I think it's tough in this industry, not only because of the inconsistency of the work and of the schedules, but also just the matter of what we deal with. And I'm not one of these people who go around saying, acting is the hardest pursuit on earth. But it's true to say that it is not easy to break yourself open and expose yourself to the world, your most vulnerable and hidden and shameful parts that you don't talk about. It's not easy to deal with that openly when you're working, and it's important to create kind of a space where you realize that, you know what, I'm using this for good. I'm using my experience to tell a story, and maybe this story will help someone heal or help someone find a path with what they're going through. Um, I think everyone no matter if it seems like it or not, they have something weighing on them. Uh, and so it's so important for me to be able to talk about my feelings and what I'm going through. And I always do it, no matter if I always do it. I always. Um, I will give a loved one an earful. That's just kind of who I am. And maybe I should be better about learning when's the right time to do that. But I always do it. And it always helps. And I think it helps for anyone. And yeah, never be afraid to ask someone how they're doing, how they're really doing, um, regardless of how they seem. Because, yeah, they might need it.
Beautiful, brother. It's freaking good. It's freaking good. All right, I want to talk about nature
Yeah,
real quick. So, growing up in Portland, Fremont, is it Freeport?
Freeport, Freeport. Yeah,
You're fishing, you're in nature, it's really beautiful over there, and then you come into the city and you're living in the city.
yep,
How has it been for you? Because do you consider yourself like a lover of nature?
absolutely. The thing is, it was never an intentional thing. Like, I'm gonna get out into nature today growing up. It was just when I walk out my front door, that's how it was.
Hmm.
Living in Maine. Um, I was a couple minutes from the ocean and a couple minutes from some deep, deep woods, always. And so getting to the city I describe it as a 2 week long panic attack, because there just wasn't that nature to speak of. Uh, and it was a huge, huge, really harsh adjustment. But I found solace in finding some parks, touching some grass, smelling some flowers, looking up at some leaves, how they move in the breeze. And it's a crazy city, but maybe you can pop your earbuds in and lay on your back and look up at some leaves and kind of feel connected a little bit to nature again. Um, yeah, nature was everything to me growing up. I grew up outside. I spent most of my time until I discovered what Grand Theft Auto was, unfortunately. I spent most of my time running around in the woods. And yeah, huge change coming to the city. But the beautiful thing is, I feel so lucky that I get to call two drastically different places home, like New York and Maine. They're so opposite in so many ways. But it's so rare that someone gets to call two places so different home. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I'm feeling super overwhelmed and worn out and you know, um, like I need to get away, if I can find the time, I'll take a little trip to Maine and I'll walk through the woods and hang out with the dogs and go sit, by the ocean. And it's such an amazing, I don't know. I'm very lucky to have both. But huge adjustment. Yes, huge adjustment.
Yeah, I find it so beautiful because I feel like they're both different levels of like ability of play, like
Yeah.
playing as a kid, like we would make believe lands as I'm like running through the forest being chased by like an imaginary thing from like Bridge to Terabithia, and then you have the ocean, like, and you're a kid and like it's so, or you could be alone, dude, and you're just your imagination goes wild.
Yeah.
And the city, I mean, I haven't experienced the city a ton outside of like pieces here and there, but I find it's like so romantic in the
Mm,
idea of getting lost into this like artistic family of creatives where you don't know maybe anyone, but everyone is connected in like this
yeah.
technical way, and it's so artistic in so many ways.
Mm.
Um, it's so cool. Have you found how does we gotta wrap it up soon. But I have so many questions. Music. Talk
Yeah.
about music in your life because I know you're a bit of a musician as well. And how does music play a role? Do you still play? Do you find music when you, because there's a musicality to film, there's a musicality to comedy, which you're
Yeah.
amazing at too. So talk to me about music a little bit.
Dude, yeah, music is huge for me. Nowadays I'm not creating music as much as I used to. But I was always messing around with instruments growing up. The piano, drums, and guitar, namely, were things that I lost myself in, and I never took classes or anything like that. It was mainly just like the gym, kind of teaching myself, or good old YouTube was a big thing for me for music. And yeah, music is so important to me. I have like 18 playlists for every possible situation I could ever find myself in. Um, and yeah, every story has a tempo, and with film and TV and theater, that the music of the story is so powerful. Um, and like someone like who was I thinking of? Someone like I'm forgetting his name, obviously. Any actor you know where their voice and how they speak has its own specific cadence and you can follow it and it's rich and it kind of takes you on this journey as they speak. I've always found that so interesting and so delicious to listen to. Um, and I think there's so much value in finding the music everywhere you go. I mean, in New York, it's not hard. Like when you're on the subway, there will be someone set up with speakers and a guitar singing, or you'll have people come on with like an accordion and whatever, like playing, and it's just on your commute to work. And if you can take the time to take your AirPods out for a moment and listen to the real world and the music being played in front of you, um, it can really shift the trajectory of your day. Um, and the tempo of Maine is more of a ballad, and the tempo of New York is kind of a rock song. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's been super cool to kind of discover that new genre when I moved here, and how it affects people. Yeah.
Yeah, brother. That's really cool. Alrighty. So we talked about the present, talked about the past a little bit. Now we're gonna dive into the future. So first when I asked this question
Mm-hmm.
initially in the beginning, I was like, give it to me. Dreams, goals, ambitions, future, hit me with it. Because I was like, for the manifestation process, we gotta like speak it out into the world in order to kind of attract it. And then I also kind of went against that in a way, and I was like, I kind of also believe in the idea of speak like not speaking it, doing the work in silence and letting the work speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wrestling with it as an actor because I mean, I've heard, so many stories and already have personal experiences of not like almost expecting the thing, like putting yourself in the energy of
Yeah.
getting the role, and then it happens time and time again where you don't get it, and then it's so disheartening. There are
Mm-hmm.
times where like actors book a part, do scenes, and it's cut from the thing, so it's hard to almost speak about things into the future when they haven't happened yet because of the possibility of rejection, which is strangely beautiful in its own way. But I'm giving you an opportunity here to just however you want to place this. If you want to talk about things and visions of the future, it could be colors, it could be feelings that you want to experience, it could be a mood board, a vision board,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that kind of looks like. It could be in the next week, next month, 5 months, 1 year, 10 years, by the time you're like 100 years old. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what does that vision look or feel like for you?
I I see myself doing work, acting in things that really move me and things that make me really excited to tell the story. Um, and I want to pay the bills with that. Uh, my, and I know this, I kind of took a very broad and spiritual question and kind of made it pretty materialistic, but genuinely, my future, my vision for myself is having um, enough fulfilling acting work that I'm able to just act and pour my energy and my time and my resources into doing that. I want to do it all day, dude. And I just see myself uh, really, really calling myself an actor in that way, where it's like, yeah, I'm an actor, but I also wait tables. Like, I just want to be an actor, man.
Mm.
So I see that, and I want to make some really meaningful work that affects people and that teaches myself about teaches me about things. I'm really excited for that kind of work, and I've already been a part of some of it, which has felt so, so cool. But yeah, I see that.
Dude, that's a great answer. You are an actor, and it's happening. It's happening. It's coming. It's beautiful. All right. So to wrap things up, because this is a
Yeah.
very official podcast, we got some rapid fire questions. Some
Okay.
of them can be rapid. Some of them take your time because they might take some more thought. All
Yep.
right, Mr. Dyson. First and foremost, what would you say right now at this moment brings you the most joy?
Mm. The first sip of an espresso in the morning
Where do you get your coffee?
at work.
Good answer. What are
It's
your
free.
top what are your top four values?
Oh my gosh. My top four values. Um, a trusted friend, uh, helping someone in need, um, uh, honesty, but specifically honesty with yourself, that kind of self-awareness, um, and values. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I really, really value right now the fact that I am fully relying on myself to keep a roof over my head and to keep myself happy and fulfilled. I feel very fortunate that I get to do that for myself. So just the ability, my value is self-reliance. That's huge for me lately. It means a lot.
Yep. Amen. Amen. All right, great answers. What is your spirit animal? If you had to choose one.
Oh my gosh. A meerkat. Meerkat for sure. I love those little dudes. Yeah,
It's a great
yeah,
answer. All right, this one is I was like sitting with the intention of this whole podcast and what I kind of wanted to get out of it. And
yep.
I really wanted to take a moment to kind of like take a moment of celebration because sometimes life can be really tough. You're busting your ass so hard in the restaurant. I want to take a moment for you to reflect on life, and there's so many moments that you can choose from. But the first one that kind of sticks out when I ask this is a moment where you reflect and you were proud of yourself.
Mm, hell yeah. Um, honestly, and we've been talking about it so much, but I think a moment I'm really proud of myself is just getting up and getting to work every single day for the past 2 months. That's huge. And it's been so important for me to pay the rent and, keep myself afloat. And I've definitely needed that patch of really, really hard work before this leisurely acting summer. And there were times where I really didn't want to do it, but you wake up and you put one foot in front of the other, and I did that without fail. I didn't get fired from either of my jobs, which is a miracle. Um, I did it, man. Yeah, I really, didn't want to at times, but I did that, and I'm proud of myself for showing up for myself in that way.
Oh yeah, brother. It's a great answer. All right. What is this is you can think on this one.
Hmm.
A book, a movie, or a TV character that you would say is most like you?
Oh my God, wow. That's a really good question. Um, huh. Oh gosh, that is most like me. Oh my God, I really gotta think. That's a great question. Um, maybe, you know what? I'm gonna bring it back to Avatar once again, but this time I'm gonna say Sokka. Because as of late, I'm just so food driven, man. I am so hungry and I eat a lot. Oh my gosh, I eat a lot. It's crazy. It surprises me how I fit that much food inside my body. And Sokka is a big food lover. Uh, and he's also just a super, super hardworking guy. And he takes pride in where he comes from, and he has huge dreams and ambitions, but he puts faith in himself, and he relies on the help of the his team around him. Um, and he goes for the big things, and makes big things happen. Um, out of coming from not much, but mainly the food thing. But yeah, so I think soccer. Yeah.
Great answer, man. Also, he's a funny freaking dude. He's a funny dude.
He's a
That
bit of
was a great that was a
a
great segue though, because I wanted to ask in the foodie aspect, what would be your final meal? Talking appetizer, entree, dessert.
wow, what a question. Appetizer, I'm going with jumbo shrimp cocktail. And I like that cocktail sauce with enough Worcestershire and horseradish to, give you a tingle in your nasal pathway. That's a big one. Love that, dude. I'm going to a wedding this weekend, and if they don't have shrimp cocktail, I'm getting on the plane and leaving. That's my appetizer. Just kidding. That's my appetizer. My entree. Mm, fantastic question. I think um my entree. So funny enough, I might go double shellfish on this. I grew up in Maine, maybe a big steamed Maine lobster. I don't need none of that butter dipping sauce. It's so good. It's such a delicacy. Um, and if you haven't had a lobster in Maine from Maine, please, please do it, man. It'll change your life. If you think you like lobster, just wait. Um, and dessert, I'm gonna go with a nice lemon panna cotta. We used to have them at my restaurant I started working in back in Maine. Oh my gosh, they're so good. They're like they're like pudding, but uh just better. They taste more fresh and they're a little more firm. Gosh, I love a panna cotta and I like lemon desserts. Um, I think that would be my go-to. If not the lobster, God, I love seafood. If not the lobster, maybe just some like sashimi, just some fresh fish pieces. Oh gosh, yeah. I just like seafood, man.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys ever like when you would go fishing, would you take that bad boy, toss him on the grill and
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a funny story for another time, about getting lost on a river that borders Maine and Canada in torrential downpour. And me and my best friends pulled our canoes over to the side and set up an impromptu fire, shielded from the rain with one of our tents. We set it up on sticks, and then I went to the river and I caught like 4 or 5 fish, and we cooked them and ate them for dinner while we tried to figure out what to do.
dude,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
that's wild. It's crazy. Probably shouldn't have eaten those fish, but yeah,
You only
it's
live
good.
once. All right. You talked about this. I want to hear the story of the origin of your name.
Dude, hell yeah. So, my full name is Aidan Thomas Dyson Gallagher. Growing up, I went by first and last Aidan Gallagher. Um, and then this young actor who started on Nickelodeon, and then, he was in like the Umbrella Academy, he's done a bunch of different stuff, Aidan Gallagher. He kind of popped into the scene, and then I started my career kind of shortly thereafter. And I was like, dude, damn, I need to pick a new name. And what a great opportunity to kind of honor my mom and make her maiden name Dyson my like official acting last name. So I now go by Aidan Thomas Dyson. And I think Aidan means something like little flame in like an Irish dialect, I think, which is kind of cool. But yeah, Aidan Thomas Dyson. Um, that is where I've landed at. Yeah, and Thomas comes from Thomas the Tank Engine.
Hey.
Uh, I think my parents thought I would like it, so they made that my middle. I
Hmm.
don't know, because my brother's middle name is James, and then there was like James at the caboose, and whatever. But
Mm.
yeah, man, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's very cool. And for those of you who don't know, SAG, it's like the cream of the crop. Like it's the if you're being like a professional actor getting professional work, you are a SAG member actor. But if you have the same name as someone who is already SAG, you cannot use the same name. There can't be any duplicates. So
Mm.
that's why you see a lot of people whose stage name has a middle name in it. So it's really kind of cool. Where did it feel like a bummer? You're like, oh, like this is like an identity crisis, or was it like you found yourself like it's like that alter ego?
At first, I was like, it just feels wrong coming off the tongue. But I was also really happy to make my mom's maiden name a part of the
Mhm.
name that people associate me with. That just felt really good. And then over time, it just felt more and more right to the point where if for some reason someone's saying my name and they're like Aidan Gallagher, it feels more like, oh, that's I haven't, that's a name of the past, But yeah, it feels very natural now, and I like it now. But at first, it was a little jarring.
Mhm. Awesome. Now, what is an artist that you look up to that you admire? It could be an actor, it could be a director, a writer, a musician, someone that you really has been like a compass in a way.
Hell yeah, dude. I think I'm gonna have to go with Jason Bateman. Love Jason Bateman so much. When my manager first met me, she was like, "Who do you look up to as an actor? Who, if you had the choice, would you shape your career after?" And immediately I thought Jason Bateman, man, that guy is the shit. First off, he is he's just a stand-up guy. In what I've in the learning about him as a person that I've done, he's a great guy and he values some really cool stuff. But also his work has been so inspiring to me. Like, he started as a child actor and he did a lot of those funny little series, but then he went into like Arrested Development, which is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my life, and he's comedic gold. I consider myself a bit more of a deadpan leaning comedic actor rather than like a over the top slap comedy comedic actor. And I take so much inspiration from him with that. Because his deadpan is so funny. But then he did a 180 and like did Ozark. And he had some producer and director and writer credits on Ozark. So in his mind, he shifted from Arrested Development, and then a little time went by, and then he was like, okay, let me make, uh, a horrific and blood-curdling series that you absolutely cannot stop watching once you start, by the way. Um, and he has that range and he does so well in both. I look up to him so much as an actor, and you know, I hope one day to get to meet him or work with him. It would just be the biggest full circle of my life. Yeah, that'd be so
Mhm.
cool.
Love it. And what is a comfort film? Might not be your favorite film, but it's that one that you just keep coming back to. You
Good
watch
one.
any day.
My comfort film, dude, honestly, and this is this is crazy. I've watched Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri so many times, and I love it so much every time. Sam Rockwell he brings the comfort to my soul as the sheriff's deputy. Um, and that just keeps giving, in terms of just like a rainy day hunker down comfort. But in terms of a more traditional comfort film, I love the original Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. Those ones knock my socks off. I love them so much. I think their comedy as well is ahead of their time. Um, yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
like that series a lot.
I love it. All right, my brother. So you do the things, brother.
Hmm.
You take off. You're a full-time actor. You're not just auditioning like crazy. People are coming to you and you
Mm,
get to be selective for the choices you make. You continue to rise the standings of this subjective, crazy industry, telling story after story after story, different characters,
mm,
being the not just like Jason Bateman-esque. You are Aidan Thomas Dyson, someone that people like, you are your own thing.
mm,
And whether that's, on stage, on film, for years and years and years to come, you fall in love, you have a great family, you give back, keep supporting breast cancer awareness. Your mom is right there with you on the red carpet, bro. You just keep giving and doing performance after performance and find new passions and just live and lead a beautiful, beautiful life. And you live to be like 130 years old, but ultimately your time has passed and the soul moves on to that next phase, whatever that is. And it is the day of your funeral,
mm.
and all of your loved ones and friends and family are around. What would you like them to say about you? How do you want to be remembered?
Wow, what a question. I think I would want people to say that the way that I lived and my goals, and how I had strived to achieve them, and the passion that I led my life with inspired them to live a life of no regrets. Um, a huge thing for me right now is the concept of looking back on my deathbed, or in this situation, looking back after that, looking at my life. And I want to inspire people to put love first and do what they love and make the most of the tiny amount of time that we have on this earth. Do what you love and lead with love. Um, and yeah, just I want to inspire people to make the most and live with no regrets. Yeah.
Amen, brother. And last question. Let's say there's a kid out there who's feels like they're floating, that they lack direction, that maybe they feel this nudge in some direction, but whether that's circumstantial or socially, they just don't feel like they can tap into what they feel like they were here to do. And they just feel kind of confused, kind of lost. Maybe they're in high school and they're
Mm.
following along with the crowd and they just need some guidance. What kind of advice would you have for someone who's trying to navigate, trying to find their way at this moment?
Um, Back to back bangers of questions. I think I would say the the pain of failure is so much worse than the pain of wishing you had tried in the first place. Uh, and you are never, ever, ever too small, or no one comes from a difficult enough or a small enough or uh you know uh sheltered or inconsistent enough upbringing to make something of yourself. Um, and I certainly did not have the hardest childhood and upbringing. Um, but I will say that I'm just, a kid from Maine. And right now, I already feel like I'm living my dream. And it is because I realized the fact that I'd rather look back and be like, you know what? I didn't get big and famous, but I spent my life pursuing acting and living in the arts and among artists and living fulfilled. I'm so happy that I spent my time doing that instead of playing it safe. So if you're a kid in that position, um, I think playing it safe is the only way that you can fail. You got to do it. Do what you love and go at it 100%. and the universe will give back to you what you give it.
Bro, knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb, Dyson, bro. I love you, man, dude. I am so beyond blessed that the stars align to guide us on this crazy freaking journey together at this crazy freaking time, man. I'm so excited to see where the journey takes off, and I'm excited to be on this journey with you, brother. We're gonna be on a crazy ride, man. We're on a crazy ride. But before I let you go, let the audience know where can we find you, where can we support you on this journey.
Heck yeah, dude. Okay, so let's see. Um, you can find me if you want to look me up in terms of my like career, my acting stuff, whatever. Aidan Thomas Dyson on IMDb. Um, and also you can find my acting Instagram. It's Aidan Thomas Dyson, all one word. AIDANTHOMASDYSON. Keep an eye out for heavy hitters, where you can watch Andrew and I uh, go through a crazy story and a lot of crazy happenings and a lot of passion and time that we've poured into this project together. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm walking around New York all day, so maybe I'll bump into someone. Who knows?
Awesome, brother. Awesome. I appreciate you, man. Keep doing your thing. Keep rocking and rolling. Good luck on this in the next couple weeks. And bro, we'll be right back at it in a couple months.
Dude, I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. Your questions are incredible. Thank you for giving me the platform to speak about these things. And dude, I'm so happy to work with you again.